Paul the Cat is the guy that's gonna do the show tonight, as I am not here. Welcome to the Shortwave Radio Show. This is the Wednesday edition, and it's brought to you by Paul the Cat, that just came back from a 2-hour outdoor stroll, and now he's preparing himself for a little nap by taking his shower, if we could say so. Don't you like it when they do like a 360 and the only reason behind it is just to get back into the same position as they usually do? Hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is the I wonder if that would be better. Not necessarily. Welcome to the Wednesday edition. I am opening a bottle of Eau Bénite. And Eau Bénite is in English holy water. So holy water that I'm opening now. There we go. You guys probably heard that. And we're going to take the glass for this. It's pretty cold. So, holy water. That's holy water. Comes from the church. And here's a beer. Cheers, everybody. Very light tasting beer. So welcome aboard. This is the Wednesday edition of the live show. Let's just make sure everything's all right here. And here. I'm not missing a light, but I find that it's a little dark. Maybe because the camera adjusts to the ghost in the background. So here we go. Nice to have everybody here. And cool to have everybody on board. As we are on the Wednesday edition of this Shortwave Radio Show, where we talk about radio, and we'll have just some fun. So I got a couple of... So I've got wireless keyboard attached now. I don't need to go to the PC here. I've set up in a different way today, because I got this very nice illuminated. Now you don't see the illumination really because it's too bright in here, but It's glowing green right now. It can glow red, green, and blue. This is a new keyboard that I've purchased for like $35. That is super cheap, but works well. So that is for the SDR, and my good old Logitech is now on my PC that I have the chat rooms. So that means that instead of, looking like somebody that has to go there, I can simply scroll with the keyboard here. So, hey, everybody, welcome aboard. Hope that you are going to have fun tonight with radio. So my name is Gilles, located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and this is a show about radio. We are here on 2 occasions every week live. We are here on the Wednesday edition at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 0 hours Universal Time. And that means it's actually Thursday for a lot of people that are actually watching this. And we are also live on Saturday now. Friday shows are now thing of the past. It's Saturday now. And basically, we will be now Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. Until the time change. When the time changes, we're still going to stay at 20 hours Universal Time. It's just going to be 3 p.m. Eastern instead of 4. But the Universal Time is always the same. Always the same. So if you have the show in Universal, you always know when to listen and when to watch. So hope that you guys enjoy the show tonight. There is a beautiful chat room that you can join in and have a lot of fun. And of course, with great people that are here to help out and make sure that you know where and how. And, if you want to learn more about radio, this is the great place to be, because this is the place where you can ask any question. And you know what? We're all going to answer, because we're all going to be happy to have your question of some sort on whatever subject about radio. This is one of the problems in our hobby sometimes, and I don't think it's just our hobby. I think it's the general hobbies around us. When you start something new, you got all of these questions coming to mind, and there's I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the idiots that just don't respect people who are new to a hobby, or I don't know, the way we're educated. We don't want to feel dumb. We don't want to feel, sometimes a question we feel we don't want to ask because we feel we find ourselves stupid to ask. And it's not the case. There's no stupid questions, because it's just that you don't know an answer to it. That's it. We got to learn somewhere. I wasn't born with a shortwave radio in my hand and knowing everything. I was born like everybody into a hobby. I didn't know much. I didn't know pretty much how it worked. I started the hard way because in the 80s, it was the hard way. It's like, no one that listens to shortwave. You almost feel like you're alone, and that everybody thinks that you're a geek and a weirdo because you're listening to static. And you're it's when you started. I still remember the first ever Mailbag show that I've listened to, and of all stations, because I don't listen to religious stations. Of all stations, WIFR, Family Radio. They had a Mailbag show on Sunday, I believe. And I came across by accident, after a few weeks of shortwave listening, to their Mailbag show. And there I learned that, wow, I'm not alone. There's actually people around the world doing the same thing that I do and geeking out. And it was, I remember for a while, I would take note of all the Mailbag shows, because that was one of the things that would excite me so much, to know who's listening in what country. and knowing that other people were there. And then you get to that point where you feel famous because you wrote a letter. And while you're listening to the Mailbag show, they mention your name. In my case, they would mention a very weird name, but I knew it was me, from Montreal, Canada, because nobody knew how to pronounce my name. And you're not, you're not offended by that. I mean, just look at me here in the chat room. I'm sure I mess up like half of the names. It's it's the way it is. We don't all know how to pronounce things and words and names, and I'm sure some of you sometimes like it's not that, but yeah, I know. But that's the way it is. And I remember the first time I heard my name, and I was like, wow, a radio station. I don't remember what station I was listening to the first time I heard my name on a Mailbag show. I'm trying to figure it out. There are stations you remember because they have special things. Like Radio Moscow was very unique. Radio Moscow, if you had a question, they would send you a letter. That was kind of fun, though. They would send you a letter, and they would tell you, here are the dates and times and UTC and frequencies where you will hear the answer to your question. So you would have a question, and they would tell you in advance when to listen to. So that was kind of cool because you had that little paper, and it was like, oh, I got to listen in on this Saturday and Sunday to repeat it, and Monday I'm going to repeat it, and so on. And you would listen to the answer to your question. I still remember my first question to Radio Moscow. I'll never forget it. My first question to Radio Moscow was, are there Canadian citizens that visit Russia, that visit the USSR? And if so, how many Canadians every year visit the USSR? I still remember that was my first ever question to Radio Moscow. And they answered in quite good detail as to, how many visitors from Canada. They almost had a rundown of every province of Canada and how many people for each province. And I think they even mentioned how many people that were from Montreal, where I was, that had visited USSR in the past year or 2-3 years. It was pretty impressive. It was impressive also because you get to a point where, back in 1982, 3, 4, the USSR, this big Cold War thing. As a young kid, you have the impression that, well, if I write Radio Moscow, they'll never answer, or they're never going to get that letter from Canada, because everybody tells me that they're super secretive and they never. And you get that Radio Moscow letter in the mail, and I still remember jumping up and down and was so amazed to see a pretty big envelope, actually, almost as big. Like if you look at this keyboard, the envelope was maybe from this size from here to about here, and I still remember the big blue Radio Mokba. I would always say Radio Mokba because that's the way it was written in that bluish line on the envelope. I'm sure some of you out there that have written and received from Radio Moscow back then remember what it looked like. And there weren't a lot in the envelope. I remember there was the program schedules and the frequencies to listen to Radio Moscow. I think there was a program listing, the different types of shows. And there was a QSL card. And I think there was a letter saying thank you very much for writing in and so on. And imagine in 1983, which was, I believe, the first year I received from Radio Moscow, big Cold War, you get this envelope that comes from the USSR in your mailbox. A little Canadian teenager that still has a lot to learn about the world around him. And just being amazed and thinking, wow, I have a letter that comes from a communist country the USSR. This is amazing. But I don't remember. It is possible that WIFR was the first. It's interesting that I don't remember my first time ever being mentioned in a mailbag show. But I do remember being so surprised that they would read my letter on the air. There are a few occasions I remember. Radio, what was it? It was Radio Berlin International. I remember hearing my name there. I remember hearing my name on Radio Budapest in Hungary. I remember hearing my name on so many broadcasts. I think Austria was one of them. HCJB many times. HCJB was interesting because they probably took some notes of who we were. I remember when I wrote to HCJB one of the first times, I was taking guitar lessons. And I had mentioned in my letter that, I was interested, their broadcast was super interesting and so on. And I believe they had a show where they had Ecuadorian music, but that show was kind of a special edition where they had Ecuadorian guitar music. And it had prompted me to write and say, hey, I'm learning guitar and so on. And I wrote a year later, maybe, or many months later, and hearing my name, and I think the musical Mailbag was the show, and the announcer on the air said, "Oh, this is Gilles Letourneau from Montreal. He's written to us in the past. I remember he telling us that he was learning to play guitar. Hope you're going well with that." And I was like, "Wow, they took notes because he simply remembers, because it's like, wow, okay." They remembered some little details like that. That was like, oh, wow, so cool, Some took care of their listeners. Some of them were able to tell you, last time you had a letter, and that they hoped that the QSL card went through and so on. They would remember you wrote in the past. And like today, I was listening to, I think it was Voice of Turkey or Radio Romania. One of it's Radio Romania or Voice of Turkey. I heard someone. It's a well-known name. Somebody that is regular in shortwave. And I remember them mentioning, oh, well, our good friend from Canada or whatever, And I was like, well, they kind of have a follow-up of, it's probably easier today. I don't think shortwave stations today have the amount of mail that was back in the 80s or 70s. I'm pretty sure there's a lot less people writing in to let them know that we're listening in today. That's why I always, tell everybody, write in, let them know. Take that little, 10 minutes to let them know you're there listening to their airwaves, because that's often the only way they know somebody's out there. A lot of people say, why did some stations leave shortwave for North America, but still continue for the rest of the world? I think it's obvious that it was the lack of correspondence. They came to a point where, oh, nobody's writing in from North America, so I guess nobody's listening. And it's very difficult because in the radio audience, I think it was the BBC that had a kind of a survey that was mentioning something like, for one person writing in, there's 1,000 person or 100 person listening that never wrote in. So that means that if there's 1,000 letters from North America in a month, well, we have a huge audience in North America, probably 10, 20, or 100,000 or close to 1 million listeners. But if you've got 3 letters, okay, there's not a lot of listeners. There's a few thousand. But you might say, well, a few thousand. Yeah, but a few thousand when you consider that the size of, the US and Canada together, we are probably something like, I don't know, it's 300 to 400 million. It's something that you're like, wow, okay. It's not a lot of people, finally. that are actually writing in, letting know that we're here. So, anyways, enough babbling and talking. Let's say hello to our chat room. And there's, of course, a Facebook group, beautiful Facebook group. Thank you, Sheldon Harvey, for saying hello to all the new members this today. We're at 1,270-ish members, which is pretty nice. And it's growing quite fast. We're soon to be at 1,300 members. And that's really a lot of fun. And it's a great, great group where we talk about radio, share what we're listening to. And it's just so, so cool. And that is the same name as the YouTube channel here, official SWL channel on Facebook. So. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Nice to have you here. Ecadarius, nice to have you on board. Nice picture. I look tough. I can be. I mean, with the three guys that attacked me earlier this year, I think I showed that I can be a tough guy, but I'm not a tough guy. I'm more of a sweet side, you know, like I want to have fun and just, but don't mess around. Shitty Pyro 90, nice to have you here from British Columbia. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona, nice to have you on board. Hey, Prasad, my friend from India, nice to have you here, my friend. Sergio Cordero Lamas, nice to have you here. 45 unit, nice to have you on board. What radio I took down to put the ghost in the corner? None. It was simply the Paul the Cat picture that was there. And then behind it was just a few little things that held it together. There were no radios. So I didn't remove any radios for the ghost. But the ghost is here for Halloween. You know, I mean, we're getting to Halloween here. We got a few other things here. I've got a haunted tree there. I've got when you saw Paul the Cat, that weird orange thing next to him is somewhat of a weird Halloween tree. It's all illuminated in yellow when I plug it in and so on. Anyways, slowly putting up the decorations to kind of feel the ambiance, because I mean, with what's happening in COVID, I think it's kind of cool to have at least a sense of normality, a little sense of something regular that's in every day or every year in your life. And I'm a sucker for horror movies and Halloween in general, so it's something that I really like. Chris Dockray, nice to have you here, Chris. James Johnson, nice to have you on board from Florida. Rufus Newt from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Old radio man from Northeast Tennessee, nice to have you here. Paul is doing fine, Chris. He's, as you've seen in the beginning of the show, went outside for a couple of hours, came in, asked for a few, asked me to pet him a little bit, then asked for some food, and now he's sleeping in the chair while I'm doing the live show. James Johnson, nice to have you here. Any thoughts on closing analog AM and go digital AM here in the USA? So, first of all, you guys have a say on this. Anybody in the United States? Maybe I should do a video and put the link on the channel. So it's something where everybody can give its own opinion. Right now, it's still the time to give your own opinion on what you think about going digital or not. My thoughts, you know, I'm not because I have a few people that are on the impression. Somebody wrote a comment once and said, well, you're it's kind of an old school guy that hates digital modes and stuff, and which is not at all true. I mean, I listened with an SDR. If it was that, I would still be, using my old DX302 analog radio or something. Where my thoughts are is multiple. First of all, when radio signals go digital, which is sad, is a lot of a lot of the radios we have become useless. People listening to AM radio with a regular radio will not have signals to listen to. What are they going to do? Throw it in the garbage or discard the radio? There are millions of radios out there. People already have what we need to listen. And I mean, there's a difference, and when HDTV arrived, I understood the need for it because when you moved from analog TV to HD TV, it was obvious the quality was so much better in the image. It was really obvious. Not like, when we moved from HD to 4K to, yeah, you could see a difference, but it's not as, that's more of a marketing thing. Analog to HD was a humongous move on part of video. Where, HD 1080p to 4K. Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah. But at the same time, it's not that same wow that you move from analog to HD, not saying that it's not better. It is better. It is crisper. But there's also a limit, when they sell you those smartphones and they start telling you there's, 326 dots per inch. Yeah, well, my eyes probably can see only 50 dots per inch on a thing like this. So if there's 300 of them, I'm not even sure that you can really notice there's a difference. It's a lot of it is marketing. HD radio, I think the biggest problem, and it's true for DRM on shortwave. I still wonder why some invest in DRM transmitters. And I think it's the promise of, the sound quality is going to be so good. You're going to get more listeners. Somebody somewhere is really good at selling these things. And they're trying to make money off of it. Obviously, the industry, if you're selling a transmitter and you're going to sell transmitters with DRM, well, you're going to make money off of it. Are you going to say DRM is a bad thing? No, of course not. You're going to sell new transmitters, new equipment, new radio manufacturers. They're in the game. Even though we don't have a lot of stuff, they're thinking. They're like, wow, if everybody buys a new radio for HD, we're going to sell tons of new radios now. So they're in the game too. They're not going to tell you HD radio is no good because they're in the game. We're going to sell radios. That said, one of the biggest problems with AM radio, first of all, is interference. Anybody that turns on an AM radio inside their home, and even worse, if some of you are like me, you live in an apartment complex, or you live in a very dense city, populated area with people all around you, darn, that AM radio has so much interference in it. And some of you, it's worse than me. I'm lucky. I have a little spot. I in the living room, I can actually kind of DX medium wave. Not that bad. Not everybody's in that game. I went to a friend's house a couple of years ago, condo. The guy lives in so they have, I think it's 12 condos in that block. He came to me because he knew I was listening to the radio, and he was listening to a AM station a couple of years ago. And he remembered, because I remember one day he was listening to his station on AM, and he was telling me, he says, wow, I got a hard, reception isn't good. And he had, one of those radios that it's like a kitchen radio. It's made to save space. So you put it under, some, like on a wall or under some, I forgot the name. But, under the where you put the dish, the clean dishes and so on. So, anyways, it's a space saver type radio. Problem with those radios is once you hook it up to a place, you ain't gonna move it from there. It's stuck there in a position. And that's where I told him, I said, oh, AM radio is very directional because radios have a ferrite. And he didn't know that. And I said, look, take your radio. We're going to take the radio out of where it is. And we're going to move it, turn it. You're going to see. And we had turned it in a way that we were receiving the signal really well, where the way it was positioned, it was really crappy. And people don't know that, And we got, first of all, to understand one thing about radio. People have no idea how it works. People have no idea that their AM radio, if you turn it and twist it and put it upside down, it changes the quality of reception. People don't know that. And we have to understand, and especially us radio hobby guys, we need to understand that people are ignorant of all of that. So that's the first thing, interference and not knowing how radio works in general. And interference, if you have heavy interference, whatever you do, you're not even going to get that HD radio signal. It's not even going to go through because it's so interfered with that the decoder, the HD or the digital decoder, will not even be able to give you audio of that signal. So that's the first thing we got to know. Second thing is, why doesn't anybody realize that the reason why people are leaving AM radio also in a way is of the crappy content? I understand when I tune the AM band in the nighttime from time to time, I understand why WCBS 880 New York is popular, because it is one of the biggest money makers right now and markets. Did you notice that they don't have any syndicated shows? They don't have any of that crap that's playing on a million different stations at the same time. They have their own news. It's paced in a way that it's kind of lively and you want to listen more and so on. And it shows there's a lot of ads. But it's lively. You'll know in 20 minutes everything that's happening, not just in the world, in New York. That's what people want. You know what I miss here is and I wanted to have that when they wanted to do these all news stations, French and English, that are a big joke because they're just music right now. And they're spending, I don't know how much money broadcasting music on 600 and 940 kilohertz. I was hoping for some professional WCBS style news channel that I would have listened to, because we need something that's kind of live and always up to date with what's happening. I miss that type of radio. But at some point when you get, syndicated shows with stations playing all the same thing, no people in the studio, it's interesting because I find it interesting that they don't understand that when you remove what is and sounds personal of your area, your city, and so on, you lose interest also. And like I said, I don't see people buying new radios because AM radio is going HD. I think they're missing the boat. AM radio might sound crappy for music, but it sounds totally fine for voice. So if you've got spoken language programs, it sounds great. Honestly, I think if HD radio dominates in the US, if they decide that that's the way we're going, that's just going to make the AM band go down even faster than it is actually right now. And we got to understand one thing. I've look at the young generation today, teenagers, even young adults. I don't see a lot of them listening to the radio, honestly, except that radio is a big thing in cars still. But in general, I don't see a lot of people listening to the radio. And the young generation, I don't see them listening to the radio in 20, 30 years from now either. And I think that touches even FM. So, I think they are trying to find solutions, but they're going in the wrong direction. And that's my personal opinion. Maybe some of you have a different opinion of that. That's going to be interesting to see. But I think somebody somewhere doesn't understand exactly why they're losing all of that audience, as time goes by. Who's listening to AM radio are old geezers like me, Joe Tyson, nice to have you on board from North Carolina, KM4WRQ. I am 35 minutes behind, guys, so hang on with me. Yogi, nice to have you on board. Everybody's saying hello to Mr. Paul. What's Paul's favorite DX? He listens to whatever I listen to. As long as I'm in the room, he's going to listen to whatever is on the air. I can tell you that. Rufus says, Dave says, hi, Paul. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board. Artist Ali Crafter's Kitchen from Massachusetts, nice to have you on board. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Yeah, you got it. You got my hoodie back. Actually got almost my wool shirt and my hoodie. It's been alternating chairs. So if I sit here, today was the funniest thing is I sit here, I'm doing videos, and I get up and he drops from, he goes down the chair, comes here, gets on this chair. And I'm like, I gotta actually go to that chair to continue my videos. And after like half an hour, I get up to get something and I come back. He's changed chair again. So it's like, okay. Joe Rodman, nice to have you here. TVDXer, bonjour, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Nice to have you on board. Hecadarius says Paul, Mr. Paul the Pirate Radio Cat. Page Master, nice to have you here from Oklahoma. KC5VOY, WA5136 SWL. David says, drinking holy water, is that like being baptized? Baptized from the inside. I'm baptized from the inside. Oh, God. Throat Punch, nice to have you here. I got a joke in my head because Throat Punch says, Bible says, do not fear 365 times. And somebody made a meme video with Apple's iPhone announcements yesterday of how many times they pronounced 5G. It's just hilarious. Like 5G was everywhere. It's like, yeah, okay. Just come on. Magazine 1976, Holy Water, the official drink of radio. Maybe it's going to help the radio waves. Mixed radio clips. Nice to have you here. Yeah, I'm baptized too. I'm Catholic. Not by choice. Because they forced me to. That's how things are sometimes. Glenn Zekman. Is that your girlfriend in the background? You're talking to the ghost or something? James Johnson got a Logitech version. No, it's not yet. It's still the FCC is still searching for a decision, and I believe you can still go to the FCC website and give your opinion of what you think. so that they will actually make a decision, an official decision. Jim from Rhode Island, nice to have you here. Rufus Newt says he was a wise man who invented beer. Plato. Kevin, nice to have you here. WS2H from New Jersey. 80 meters is open at my QTH. Kimberly, nice to have you here. K6YYL. Mixed radio clips is from Rochester, New York. What else is that? Yeah, they're still getting input from everybody. That's why I'm telling everybody in the US, if you want to give your own opinion. By the way, some of you are saying, "Oh, bye DX." Actually, no, because some people are making some DX with HD radio. HD radio is going to be in the same band. It's going to be in the medium wave band. It's just that it's going to sound like some, kind of white noise digital modes. So we're getting there, anyways. Radio Romania International 6040 says Shitty Pyro. Moria 330, nice to have you here. Glenn says we need fall. Joe Michaels, what do you think of WebSDR? It's fine. If you don't have a radio, why not? Dan Robinson, nice to have you here. You're quite right, Jill. I think there are enough of the veterans listeners around to help newcomers. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're here for that. We are here for that. Throat punch. There's no such things as stupid questions, only stupid people. Yep. We are geeks. Kimberly. Man. Rufus says his goal is to learn something new every day. I think we do all learn something new every day. I don't think a day goes around without a little something somewhere that was like, oh, okay. Huh, I didn't know that. Shitty Power 90, when I got into shortwave, I knew how to write a reception report, and I sent one to Vatican Radio, and the rest is history. Kevin, like your Halloween decor, I put 3 pumpkins on my porch, sprayed with some light bleach. Hopefully the squirrels leave it alone for a while. There's going to be more of that. I've got blinking lights that I want to put up here. I got quite a few little things. I still need to kind of figure out how I've got an interesting idea for my costume for a Halloween night that will be on Saturday, the 31st of October. So Halloween night is a live show, of course. I've got an interesting idea that I want to try to do, actually. David says mailbag shows were a favorite of mine. I actually received a couple of books from Poland. Blind Picker, nice to have you here, Rob, in Connecticut. W0RAB, Blind Ham. Starting to get a little cold. Yeah, here too. We had actually a very nice day today, enough that I spent a couple of hours this afternoon outside on the balcony in the sun with Paul the cat and my PC, going through stuff on the internet and listening, scanning around with the Texan PL990X receiver. Joseph Ickenbaum, nice to have you here from the San Francisco Bay Area. Dan Robinson, Moscow and Radio Kiev had excellent mailbag shows. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, really? Blind Picker. You went to Russia in the late 80s on a school trip. Cool. That must have been quite interesting, especially at that time. Well, it probably still is today, but that time was kind of particular, So James Johnson says October 29th is a meeting to decide and review. So it's not done deal yet. So this is going to be interesting to see here. What's going to happen with that? Voice of Korea at a mailbag show. I don't know. I've never heard a mailbag show on that station. They could have. Why not? Kimberly, I got on a show by chance on YouTube called Ham Radio Live Show 54. He interviewed me just a couple of days ago. Oh, wow. This is so cool. This is so cool. James Johnson, man, I don't think I'm going to buy no more AM radios. I am thinking of buying one HD radio for the fun of it. But I'm a different kind of guy. I mean, we are radio geeks. I want to buy one for the purpose of having one to see what it's all about. That's not what the majority of people are going to be. Dan Robinson, Voice of Vietnam, had a mailbag show through the 70s. Many of us ended up on. Oh, well, Dan Robinson, I think even here, I wonder if there's someplace somewhere you could ask. I don't think nobody's going to ever tell you, but we talk about how we live in free countries, what we do, what we want, and all of that. But living in a free country where you can be on the air and you can talk crap about your own prime minister or the president of your country or whatever, does not mean you're not being observed somehow, and that somebody somewhere is not taking notes on what and who you are. And I remember not a lot of people thought about that. But I remember in the 80s when I started getting letters from East Germany, from Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, USSR, Iraq, or Iran. It did come to my mind at some point that there must be a file somewhere in Ottawa, or I don't know where they probably have just taken a few notes saying, well, he's receiving some correspondence from communist countries. And there's a few things that I found interesting over the years of receiving letters, and particularly in the 80s. I remember a few letters received in plastic envelopes in which it was saying that the envelope got destroyed and that they had put the content in a plastic transparent envelope. I remember 2 or 3 letters, one from Syria, one I think was from Bulgaria, and I don't remember the other one. I remember one from Brazil also, where I actually had to sign my name at the post office to acknowledge that I received the letter. Now, in the innocent side of things, you could think they just want to make sure that I received it and they can see that I did get it. And at the same time, the Cold War era hype was very heavy, and then I think everybody was suspicious of something somewhere. Even people that, I never got into the hype, the intense hype. And I mean, I remember there were the 80s was a little bit like in the 60s when the Cold War was at its very complex moment. As a teenage boy back then, I still remember that there were moments that I wouldn't call it fear, but I would call it I didn't like it. I didn't like the way things were going. And I would fear that I don't know what's next. I remember, I think anybody in the 80s that was in the Cold War, intense Cold War, still remembers when Korean Airlines plane got shot down by the Russians. I mean, it was kind of an intense moment. There were a few moments like that in the 80s. I was like, okay, this is kind of not cool. And even though I was not, I've never been a guy that paranoids easily on stuff like that. I was a guy that's I was very attentive. I had a lot of, I would think a lot about everything happening around me with that. And when I had to sign for my first letter, or when I had an envelope, transparent envelope with content saying that the envelope was destroyed, so they put it in an envelope for me. What crossed my mind back then, and I still remember today, what crossed my mind back then? Okay, they opened the envelope. They wanted to see what I was receiving from these countries. They wanted to make sure that I'm not a commie or something. But I'm pretty sure, and I wouldn't be surprised. We talk about the Cold War as a thing from the past. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised that these files, they're still there. They still exist. They still somewhere in Ottawa are saying, that guy is a little weird. He's getting correspondence from countries that are kind of delicate in our relations. I don't know. Maybe we're just paranoid a little bit in some way. Maybe it was not the case. But I heard a lot of stories of here in Canada, not so, but I heard quite a few stories from over the years from some people in the US that say that they might have been visited by, some agents just to see if everything is all right. It was possibly more intense in the United States than it is here in Canada, even though we were still intense in the way that things were happening. But it was crazy, crazy times. I can tell you that. But it's always crazy times. Look today. I mean, 2020. Want to talk about crazy times in a different way? 2020 is a crazy time. Blind picker. A lot of different food was terrible. The people were awesome. Well, I'm sure people, people are people. I mean, it's not because you live in the USSR that you're a bad person. You're just, different place. And let's be honest. When we look at the way things happen, there's a lot of people in the world that are stuck under a government that has a certain ideology. But the people in that country or that place, all they want is have fun and just have a life. And I think it goes for everybody. What else do we have? Yeah, I know there's some talk about expanding the FM band. Why not? There's a lot of receivers that go down to 64. Why don't they open that? Why not? Well, blind picker. I think both sides like to show their tanks and missiles. That was the thing. Hey, Erica Trell, I saw you got that new toy, the ICOM ICR, that ICOM IC 705. When you posted the manual. Hope you're enjoying that and having fun with radio. WB1HBU. Nice to have you here from Boston. Joe Michaels, did Putin sign it? No, back then it was Gorbachev. And even before that, there were others. Man, there was Khrushchev, and all of that gang. VT Radio, nice to have you here from Essex Junction, Vermont. AA1SU. Nice to have you here, Paul. Yeah, Brezhnev and Gorbachev and Chernyenko, which was one that was not there very, very long, but was there in that when there was that just before that. He was very, very short lived, but he was there just before the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Tom the Xer, WPE2QED. Nice to have you here from the Lower Hudson Valley, New York. What else do we have? Volcano time lapse. QSLs from the 70s. Cool. The best QSLs in the world. Some of them that I have here from the 80s are just so amazing. William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Let us know what you think about it, Eric. Absolutely. Yeah, you can't put the link here unless you're a moderator, unfortunately. So let's try to go down as fast as I can. As fast as I can. Let me see here. Eric Kachal, I was on a NutNet 2 nights ago, and one of the guys, Mark, mentioned was interested in getting the PL990X. So he's watching usual videos. A couple of others have watched the stream recently. Cool. Nice to have these ham radio operators watching this show. And welcome aboard if you are. And still behind my Texan PL990X. Kind of nice. I found a glitch today. Actually, I found it twice. It happened once so today's Wednesday, on Monday. And it happened again today. There's a little glitch in the PL990X where you can't change the bandwidths. And the bandwidth's stuck at 1 kilohertz wide. And the very simple way to get out of it is turn off the radio for 15 seconds, turn it back on, comes back normal again. So I guess it's some kind of firmware glitch somehow. And today, Anonco actually sent me a revised secret, what was it? The secret hidden features that they call. So Anonco sent me a revised hidden feature list. I looked at it quickly, and they actually fixed the because the original hidden features did not have the right procedure for calibration. They finally fixed that. The one I got today, they're explaining it correctly on how to do calibration of the frequency on the radio. Mickey Dolmage, nice to have you here from Sherwood Park, Alberta. The log periodic goes back up on Saturday. Cool. Noodle ham operator, nice to have you on board from Georgia. What else do we have? PageMaster, FCC 19123 on FCC seeks comment on whether to authorize AM stations to transition to an all-digital signal on a voluntary basis. And that also is something we got to remember, okay? It's voluntary basis, which means you don't have to. You don't have to, you know? Richard 2003, nice to have you here. New subscriber, best shortwave portable for $150 with SSB. If you don't want to have muting while tuning around, Texan PL 660 or 680. Texan PL 660 or 680. And if you don't necessarily mind tuning, muting while tuning, and have more features like, more bandwidths and stuff like that. XH Data D808 is a great one. I don't know if you're in the United States, but you would probably get a C-Grain CC Skywave at around 150. Another thing, if you like to use computers and radio, things like the SDR Play RSP1A, SDR receiver that you control with a computer, under $150, and The only thing is you need to use a computer to use it. So it depends what you want. But you're saying a portable, so XH did a D808, amazing radio. Pretty good radio also. The Ethon Grundig executive satellite with SSB. That's also one that you might be able to find at roughly or under 150. These are great radios. That depends what you want to have. Yarabamba, yes, there's a special Halloween show on Saturday night, October the 31st. We will be I'm thinking of a whole scene here. While we're chasing pirates, there's going to be some, let's say there's going to be some time warps. And I think it's going to be interesting. Dan V, nice to have you here from Ohio. Quiche Escape, is mayonnaise a shortwave radio? Don't get the question here. PageMaster says some television stations cannot broadcast through digital signals because they just can't afford the equipment. Yeah, that's the other thing. You know, they have to invest in that type of equipment for sure. Take care, Ecadarius. Your Texan 380 power button does not work. Did you press and hold it just for the fun of it? Or then make sure that you have not locked your radio. There's a lock button on the 380. If there's a little key in the display, you'll not be able to turn it on. You got to unlock. So these are a few things. The other thing, remove the batteries for more than 24 hours, put them back in. There are very little problems with the Texan receivers in general, but they're pretty much all the same, and pretty much the fix is pretty much all the time the same thing. Remove the batteries for more than 24 hours. Put them back in, and I can bet you that 380 is going to power on like there was nothing left. One of the thing is these are kind of computer-based, or they have a small CPU in them most of the time. And what happens is that if you touch the antenna, and that's for every radio, by the way, because there's a lot of Texan bashing going on right now. I get a lot of people saying, well, Texan crap this, Texan crap that. When in reality, I'm sorry, but Texan is up there in the top radio makers. And I'll stand by. I can tell you that. One of the things that happens is that when you use a radio, and it happened to me with like more than half of all the radios here, if it's dry and you touch the telescopic with your hand, you might zap it. It's not because you didn't feel static electricity when you touched that it didn't zap. Sometimes it's not strong enough for you to feel it, but it's there, and it freezes the CPU somehow, and the radio doesn't respond, or something doesn't work anymore. Very often, remove the power for 24 hours, and it's just great. Of the Dawn, why Paul is not moving 2 weeks? Because he's dead. No, he's not. He's sleeping. He's like, it's this new schedule. No internet required for AM, digital AM. It's just that you need a digital capable receiver, an HD capable receiver. So, Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen now, just out of Crafter's Kitchen. A adapter box for digital AM radio. I'm not really sure. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not like a TV. On the TV, it's worth it because TVs are like expensive stuff still, even though they're cheap ones. Erica Charles says, I just say that radio is just magic like Harry Potter. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep, the XH Data D808 PageMaster is known to have one of the biggest ferrites out there for AM reception. Jerry Thibault, nice to have you on board. Problem with the AM radio is that I think it's sad to see that nobody sees that AM radio is just as crappy content. You know why people go on FM? Because they listen to music, and FM has a lot of music stations. And when you go to talk content, it's a very different thing. You know, for you to sit down and listen to somebody talk, it has to be very interesting. You have to be in it. You have to be, in the same vibe as the discussion going on. And AM radio, I think, has a big problem with that. I have tuned a lot the AM band in the past year, more than in the past. I've kind of taken an interest in taking a bit of time at, like, before going to bed to do an hour of AM medium wave DXing. What strikes me is, first of all, the number of frequencies that have the same darn program. Second of all, the number of programs that are like, yeah, really? Are you kidding? Come on, please. Like I say, the only station I will, and I'm not even, living in New York City. I'm in Montreal, Canada. That it keeps me there. WCBS has that unique thing going on. Keegan, nice to have you here. XNADXer from Northwest Arkansas. V3KRP, bonjour. Nice to have you here. Fast Eddie in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Eric Cottrell listens to the station when he drives to New York City. No, WCBS is a very different thing, Keisha Escape. It doesn't have music. It is news content 24 hours. It is up to date. It keeps you informed of what's happening. This is what AM radio was at its best, that they are still doing. I don't agree that it's bad. It's actually very interesting content when you want to know what's happening. The rest of the AM band is crappy as hell with all the same programming all the time. Gunner66, do you know what automotive radios do differently that they don't seem nearly as directional as regular portable radios? Actually, they are quite directional in general. But the fact that most of the time on AM, roads are rarely straight line. They are often, you move around. And so you're always moving, you're always turning. Some of these have the antennas also embedded some in the car itself in a way that maybe is making it better for some reason also. But I think it all has to do with the way they're designed simply. And the fact that you're never always on the same trajectory. You're always turning around, moving around. I'm not sure about, so FM for a long time, if you guys remember, today it's invisible because the radio antennas are kind of embedded within the body of the car in some way. Sometimes in the windshield itself. In the 80s, 90s, the cars had these antennas sticking out. I know that some car radios even use the antenna sticking out has an AM antenna also, because they wanted to make sure that the internal noise made by the engine does not interfere with the radio itself. So I know that some of them actually use the same antenna for AM and FM, which makes it different, because if you use an AM antenna that is not a ferrite, it doesn't have that directional pattern anymore. So maybe sometimes that is one of the reasons why it could be better. Joe Michaels, how do you feel about satellite radio? That's different because it's very specialized, like Sirius XM, stuff like that. That is a very different game, and I'm okay with that. I actually find it really, really cool because it's a different game. It's a different thing. But there are very specialized content there. That's why maybe it does have a certain popularity. You will hear stuff and types of programs and types of content that you don't get anywhere else. Maybe AM radio could actually learn from that. That one of the reasons satellite radio has a certain popularity is because the content's there also. And of course, it does have that, superior audio quality. So if you want to listen to music, we all agree that music on AM is not really the place to go. And I can bet you a lot of us, because I listened to music on AM radio a lot when I was young, even though FM was better. So, it's, I think satellite radio shows one thing, is that content is everything. You want to get people on the boat, make good content. People will be there. But at the basic level, I'd be surprised. I think we would all be surprised at the number of people that don't hear anything on AM or almost, because there's too much noise around them. Maria 330, they decide to go all digital. The standard should be open and not proprietary. Yeah. QVDXer, WCBS booming here. Yeah, it's pretty good. Here in Montreal, it's WCBS is one of the rock solid stations on 880. Joe Sambranuas, nice to have you here from Brazil. Maria 330, most people my age don't listen to radio, and it's sad. Yeah, but we're in a different times. We have to understand that. We are in different times. I mean, we've got to understand that today's generation, is born with this in their hands. If I would go back, let's say that today, this year, 2020, I'd be that 13-year-old boy. First of all, I would not have known that shortwave exists, because there's none of that anywhere anymore. And I would maybe not much be a radio listener, because nobody around me would be there, but I would be a streaming stuff on this or on whatever I have as technology. The young generation, it's not that they don't want to listen to radio necessarily. They just weren't born with radio. So why do teenagers not listen to the radio today? Because a lot of them never grew up with radio, really, or not enough to be something that they want to listen to. They all got this thing in their hands that has content. It's moving a lot of people away. It's moving that generation away from traditional things like we do right now. That's something we gotta think about. And I am 45 minutes. behind the chat room. Sorry, guys. Yeah, AM stereo. Absolutely. That was a big thing when it came out. AM stereo. Hey, it was supposed to, a perfect example of why we're talking about HD radio today. AM stereo was supposed to save AM radio. It's crazy. Hector Vasquez. I haven't heard or seen a logging of WMLK in quite a long time in any of the forums. I know they got caught for doing their pirate stuff. They came back. I saw a lot of posts in the last 6 months. I haven't seen any posts very recently about WMLK on the bands, though. Yeah, probably, Yogi. Paul switched his chair because the other one's warmer. Kevin, why do AM programmers have interesting content late at night? Then come the weekend, when most people could enjoy the programming, it's all cancer cures and finance advice. Yeah, and I think that what you just said here is exactly the reason why AM radio is a problem. Nobody understands what people really, really want to listen to, and that is a real big problem. Nick, nice to have you here, my friend. Look, Nicholas says, I got some QSL cards from the Bureau today for stations I worked on SSB phone back in 2014. Yeah, the Bureau is slow. Got a nice one from OH8X Radio Arcala. I worked on 20 and 15 meters. Wow. Hey, Jetcrafter. Nice to have you here from Maine. Oh, yeah, Halloween show is coming, guys. Canadian Radio TV guy. Nice to have you here. Yogi Zhel will consider decorating your room with Chinese New Year decor when the time comes. that'd be nice. I'm gonna wear my CRI jacket. You know what, Nick? Cost is so high today of QSLs and printing cards and sending them. Because Nick says pity that most hams don't do paper QSL cards. I mean, if I was the 13-year-old guy that was sending out QSL cards today, man, I would not send a lot of them. It's so expensive today. Cristian D'Angelo, ¿cómo está mi amigo desde Argentina? Saludos desde Canada. Nice to have you here. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here. And Christian is LU8EXJ. Cool. Matt, MDK2, says, went to Russia in 1994. USSR was less than 3 years as history, and there were a lot of signs of a dead economy, but it was still amazing. Yeah. When you look at like a series like the Cold War on YouTube, there's a big series called the Cold War. Anybody that wants to have a little bit of lesson of history in Cold War, and it's very interesting. But what you see throughout Cold War is that Russia never really had that big of an economy and didn't have that much money, actually. They were almost always struggling, basically. So, Page Master, I know I will step on some toes about this question. Why do I need to send a self-addressed stamped envelope to amateur operators when I see their photo on QRZ site have $2,000 rig, yet they cannot afford a book stamps? That's a delicate situation, Page Master. It's not because you have... Oh, man. I don't know what to say here. If I get QSL requests, I would send cards by mail, and I would not ask anything in return. But you know what? That's that depends on everybody. There's always a percentage of ham radio operators that never really wanted to spend money to send QSLs or content or anything. There was always those hams that never wanted to QSL. I think it depends on who we are. We got to be also careful about one thing, Page Master, and it's the perceived richness of people. I get this here. I get quite regular posts, comments, messages of people saying, well, hey, you're asking for donations for a text and radio, but look at the rich guy with all his radios and the icon in the corner. Remember one thing. You might have a $2,000 rig, but it might have taken you everything you have just to get it. And it might be the only one you're ever going to get in your life because you don't have money for another one. So we have to be careful in the way we view things. Yes, that said, I'm going to say something here I shouldn't say, but I remember one time when things were not going that well, and I had asked for donations because it was kind of helping me in my revenue stream to be able to continue on here. And I remember telling someone, you got this guy that comes in the live shows every week talking about his $14,000 radios, and that another one's on the way, and never, ever take the time, while he's here all the time, to give a effing penny to help out. And that is the way things are. The reason, and that's the way it is. And I'll put that question in another perspective, Page Master. I always tell everybody, when you write to a radio station, they don't owe you anything. Well, amateur radio operators don't owe you anything either. They made a contact with you. They don't owe you a QSL. They don't have to. It's not something they have to do. Some do, some don't. But there's no obligation anywhere, And if they don't, they don't. That's the way it is. And there's a side of it that why not also at the same time. It's like, okay, if you want a QSL, send a self-addressed stamped envelope so that the cost goes down, And like I said, it's not because you got a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 rig that you're a rich person. It might have taken you years to get enough money to just get the rig. And that in reality, of course, if on QRZ.com you live in a castle on top of a mountain in Barbados, maybe asking for a self-addressed stamped envelope is a bit too much. But, it's the way it is. And we can't rant at that because, like I said, nobody owes you anything. And that's the way it is. Keegan. Also, my radio station is classic songs from WTWW on weekends. Cool. We need more boo decorations, says Kish Escape. Patrick, W1PAC. Nice to have you here. Jimmy Mitchell is studying to be a ham technician. Cool. This is cool. Congratulations. Kamasi 76. Right now, it can play European DAB HD, but not regular HD that we have here in North America. But now that they have plugins available, it probably is just a question of time when the RSP devices play regular HD radio, for sure. Mickey Downage, for whatever reason, every letter from Radio Jordan I received was clipped on all four corners. That's weird. Hey, Kisha Escape, no political comments like that. Or y'all, I'm going to ban you. Okay? I don't want any names on any political comment. You can talk about hyper paranoid governments, but I don't want any names of any preferences of anything. That's not accepted here. Eric Cottrell, CSIS would be the agency that would take note about those things in Canada. I wonder if you can ask. Like Eric said, future project. TBDXer says, I probably got one of those files too. Never had any letters opened though. But I would send hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters. So the chances of having that happen probably was very high, I would guess. Matt, the Reagan era came with a lot of tough talk for the USSR, things happening that were concerning. There was a reason why they made war games, and the day after at that time reflected the culture. Yeah. I always tell everybody, anyone that wants a feel of paranoia of the Cold War 80s, listen to Sting's song called Russians. Perfect explanation of paranoia we had back then. So let's try to get down a little faster. Yeah, it depends if it's proprietary, that's for sure, Yogi. So, I need to check out the RTL SDR stuff, because I remember it could decode HD radio with some plugin. Daniel Kim, nice to have you on board from Saskatchewan. Kimexi 76, remember the propaganda we would see on television where they would depict Russian women as fat and ugly? Oh, God. Oh, God. So that says, two guys that lived between Brezhnev and Gorbachev were Andropov and Chernenko. The latter was the one depicted in the video, Two Tribes. Yeah, it was banned in so many places. Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I still remember the first time I saw that video on what was brand new Much Music in Canada back then. Man, that video, Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, was banned by a lot of countries. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you on board. And yeah, cool. Some nice shortwave listening. Douglas, nice to have you here. KC5 ZUE in Florida. Ever done SSTV using receiver in a home computer? And for those send receive QSLs, do it via internet, instantaneous and free. Yeah, for those that do it. But I remember, but for SSTV, yeah, it's absolutely cool. Jeff Barrett, nice to have you here. Andropov, Chernyenko, between Brezhnev and Gorbachev. By chance, have you seen the movie The Death of Stalin? No, I've never seen that. I've heard of it, but I've never seen the movie. I should check it out. Is Morse code still around? What's that? It rings a bell, but I don't. What was that? James Johnson dropped my running FR 200 Saturday. Now doesn't receive so well. Might have cracked something inside. Don't you hate it? Dropping a radio. Nick, thanks for the recent review vids on the Texan PL990. I liked them all and found them to be very informative. Thank you very much. They're there for that. I mean, they're there to explain the good and the bad. My personal opinion, I've got quite a few bashing on that. You know, I think there's some of it that's China bashing, some of it is Texan bashing. But it's, it's my personal opinion. Take it or leave it. It's, I'm not shoving anything in your mouth. It's not like I'm telling you to buy a 990. I'm not even telling you to buy a 990. I'm actually telling you, you already got a good radio out there. Really, the reason to buy a 990 is pretty much up to you, Throat Punch, Radio Wow R108, $50, decent sound. Absolutely. It's a surprising little radio. Sidvik, nice to have you on board from Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Oh, I never, ever watch anything from SpongeBob SquarePants. So that's why I didn't get a drift. If you would send me a reference on and something from Futurama or The Simpsons or even South Park, I probably would have get it. But I've never ever watched anything SpongeBob SquarePants. Should I? Am I missing on something special, or should I just stay away? Oh man. Oh, Paul on the shelf. Okay. Yeah. He's always in the same position. Oh, man. Randy, Riverside, California. Nice to have you here. RJD Dakota zapped Sony Shortwave radio once. Left batteries out for an hour, and it was good as new. Yeah. Absolutely. Pamela, Militia, Caddy, Melody. Nice to have you here. Cole. All that's on AM down here in Texas is religious and boring political talk shows. That's a lot of what it sounds like when I tune the bands at midnight with what I hear from the U.S., except for a few exceptions. Shelly, nice to have you on board. Likes the ghost. It's there for the feel. Mickey Dalmich, Talk Radio, live with Gilles Letourneau on Super AM station, nationwide and live. That would be good. I need to have a coast-to-coast shortwave. Let's call it that. Coast-to-coast shortwave. And we'll have a 3-4 hour show on the AM band talking about and taking calls and talking about what's happening in the shortwave spectrum. Now that would turn a lot of you back to AM radio. RTD Dakota on FM in my part of the country. I hear Boost FM on multiple frequencies outside of that. The name music on nearly every station. Yeah. In my case, starting a pirate radio would be very easy. But a lot of it is the same programming, absolutely. Like Joe Tyson says. Jeff Barrett, in 1924, WCBS started announcing the time every 3 minutes because people didn't have reliable clocks and watches. They still announce the time quite out. Oh, yeah, they do. That is something I noticed. They give the time so frequently on that show, on that station. And it is kind of useful, honestly. I mean, we have these devices, but I don't have a watch. And, I tap my phone to tell me what time it is most of the time. To have a station give me the time every 5 or 10 minutes, TVDX or maybe WCBS will let you do a live show. Well, this is WCBS 880 in New York, and today we're going to talk about shortwave radio. I have the voice for that too. It's like, let's do a live AM station, coast to coast shortwave. Tonight, the mystery of shortwave. What is the buzzer? UVB 76. Is the USSR about to send their missiles? We'll have that after the news. Oh, man. Brady, KJ7GFT. Are you able to hear Alaskan vomit? I have not heard anything from Alaska. I've tried. They have a 4 megahertz, 4125, I think. They have 1 and 6 megahertz range. I have zero been able to receive that station over here at all. So nope. I don't even see any posts of anybody hearing it. Is it still on the air? I'm almost wondering. What else do we have? Jeff Barrett, Jill, didn't you do a show one evening when WCBS was off the air? You were listening to her stations? Yes, absolutely. A couple of months back, WCBS was doing antenna maintenance, and we were pulling in other stations that we'd never hear. Absolutely, Jeff. William Helm says, in your car, don't turn on the rear windshield defroster at the same time on the radio. The antenna and the defroster coil is the same wiring in some cars. Yeah, I've heard something about that. So, it's probably possible. Jasmine, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Yeah, 25. You're in the young generation that doesn't know what that radio is all about. What else do we have? Gunner 66, music on AM sounds surprisingly impressive on my GE Super Radio too. Yeah, when you had a really good radio, it sounded okay. I mean, I was listening to music on my boombox in the 80s. Sounded fine. It was listenable. Luis loves vintage. Listened to shortwave in high school in the 80s using a little Emerson radio. There's so much to choose from. I love their era. It is still magical to hear radio from so far away, though. Absolutely. Andres Migia. Nice to have you on board. Started radio 40 years ago with shortwave. Well, we're not very far. 38 years ago for me for shortwave. Probably 40 years of radio if you count that. I would guess 1980-ish is when the first multi-band radio ever came into my house. So, Jasmine, the only thing that draws me to radio is shortwave and its weirdness. Utility stations, digital numbers. Yeah, well, I think that's what unifies anybody that goes into radio. The weird side of it. for sure. Oh, Amanda Waltons, yes, throat punch. I do remember that. What else do we have? Let's go down slowly. Archer's All Crafters Kitchen. The problem is they're trying to get as much money as they can, and that's the thing. It's like Shortwave when we rant about Brother Stare. I don't listen to Brother Stare, and Brother Stare is not something I will listen to. But I don't know. Maybe it pays the bills a lot for a lot of people. I can tell you that. So, Canadian Radio TV guy. I live less than 2 kilometers away from local FM CBC broadcast VHF repeater site tower in Sherwood Park, Alberta. Almost always have overload. Any can never have an outdoor VM. Yeah. It's like me here. It's crazy how it's difficult. The receiver better be really, 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 really good. Honestly. Yeah, but not everybody, Douglas, gives QSL or EQSLs on the internet. That's the thing. A lot of them don't. Sidvic, sending a QSL card from here in Canada internationally is $260. To the USA, $140. I receive a couple of QSL requests mail every day because I made a lot of contacts. So that it gets a high amount at some point. It's exactly that. That's where we got to be careful because it really can ramp up the price. I would probably QSL if I was a ham, but in by mail, but for specific exotic stuff. And it really, really ramps up the price quite fast. And it was okay, Page Master. It was actually nice to have that question and talk about it a little bit. I think we need to have, that viewpoint of everything. So, K7AZR from Arizona, drinking sangria. Well, that sounds like a summer drink. And here it's cold as hell now. Well, not really. Tomorrow's supposed to be a little cooler, but I am here. I'm emptying my bottle now. I am drinking Eau Bénite. So in French, so everybody, French class is open. Repeat after me. Eau Bénite. Eau Bénite, which is holy water. So everybody now has a French word or French phrase, Eau Bénite, or it's holy water. So by the end of the year, everybody's going to speak French. What else do we have? Let's try to get down a little faster here. Okay, let's go down. Let's go down. Why am I using the computer when I can go down by here? Okay. Throat punch. How did they call home from the moon in 1969 and still use hard cables to call other continents in 2020? Well, for a very simple reason. Calling home in 1969 from the moon was one transmission. That's all. Where that question actually reaches one thing that somebody was talking to me the other day. People have the impression that internet traffic, so you guys watching me here live on the video feed, has something to do with satellite transmissions. which is not the case. Everybody that is watching me right now, you're all watching me with undersea cables. So if you're in Europe, okay, this stream is going through undersea cables up to Europe. 99% of all traffic of the internet is undersea cables and online cables everywhere in continents. And the reason is that, so when they went to the moon, there was only one transmission. That's all. When we have internet traffic, there's so much traffic that, first of all, no satellites, even with our modern technologies, no satellites can handle so much traffic, first of all. Second, the latency, the time, that delay. So when you go on the internet and you ask for something, is much smaller with undersea cables because the distance is smaller than satellites that are in, they're like 28,000 kilometers up. It's much further away. That gives a latency time that is much bigger because we can't beat one single rule, which is traffic, radio waves, light waves for, fiber optics. It's light speed. The further away you are, the longer the latency. So all of that together is explaining why we're still using undersea cables. It's the most economic way of still doing it, even though, there's like something like 380 cables under the sea right now that are sending hundreds and hundreds of terabytes a second of data from the internet. And it's crazy when you think about it. So you guys are seeing me through cables that are really deep in the ocean if you're somewhere else in North America, and landlines of fiber optics everywhere if you're in North America. It's pretty much that. It's all a question of how much traffic do you have to send, which is very, very different. And with the amount of data that we have to send today, it's crazy. Gordon Lyle, nice to have you here from Southern Illinois, W89211SWL. Hope you are well also. Okay, let's see here. I'm slowly getting closer. I'm about 17 minutes behind in the chat room. Matt says, you probably know police drummer Stuart Copeland dad was CIA. I guess he ran a bit conservative. He said Sting wrote Russians after they had a political argument. Who knows? Maybe. Who knows? It's fun to have these tidbits of why this or that station that artist wrote a song or something. The stories behind all of it, K7AZR Arizona got an ATS 909X for $50. Well, that is a great price. I hope you enjoy it. It's a nice radio. Kevin Wood, Radio Tajik and Radio Progressive, finding it on 4765 apparently. Wow, let me try that out. Whoops. 4765. So I've got a signal with very low audio, but nothing much more. Some music. I got some music right now. Dwayne K4BBN, does it bug you that that the spectrum portion of the SDR Uno view is purplish and you can't change it like you can on the waterfall? Yes, you can change it. That view and the waterfall view have two separate settings and two separate panels. I've discovered that the last time. By heart, I don't remember right now, but I will make a video. You can actually change both panels if you want to. I discovered it because last time, at least a month and a half ago, somebody was telling me, oh, you can change that, but you can't change the other. And I accidentally came through and I was like, oh, no, you can change both. So I have to do a video about it now. What else do we have? Page Master, thanks for the viewpoint about self-addressed anti-love. Yeah, it's not as easy as that, and has a 1, 2, 3. It's not 1 + 1. Life, it's like life. It's not 1 + 1. Yes, I want to wrestle with the ghost. Louis Loves Vintage is from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Cool. Douglas, nice to have you on board. KC5ZUE, of course. What do you mean I could replace Alex Jones? I tell you, the ML830 just sucks the airwaves. Jasmine. What else do we have? Mind Jam, the ML830 is very directional, but on shortwave, you have to just position it in the lowest noise and leave it like that. It's the best way to use it. It's for very far away signals on shortwave. It has very little effect if you rotate it. But if you do DX, medium wave, or long wave, it becomes extremely directional. Hey, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I will be doing a live show until the end for shortwave radio. Maybe we could convert the zombies listening to shortwave and they just gonna be happy and living with us, Gordon is starting to hear the buzz around midnight local time here in Illinois for the 6 UTC. Cool. Well, you shouldn't be making throat punch any antennas out of power lines, but let's say the power lines were disconnected, they would make great antennas for sure. Brady KJ7GFT saying that anyone remember the October 30th, 1938 War or the Worlds? I didn't hear it because I wasn't there, but man, I did hear a lot of what was happening back then. Glenn Zeckman remembers listening to CKLW back in the 60s. Kelly, have you received a PL330? Nope, not yet. Not yet. But when I was looking at the tracking today, apparently it arrived in Vancouver, British Columbia. So now is the time to know what is going to happen with it. Is it going to be taken away by the customs and it's going to take weeks, or is it going to be released fast and I'm going to get it soon? That's the other question. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let me go down, go down. What else do we have? Shelly Sykes, my kids got me some of the new Younglings Hershey Porter. Not too bad, but I'd never know the chocolate was in it if it didn't say. Well, that's like a lot of drinks when they say, well, there's nuts of, a toast, burnt toast, peanuts, and it's like I drink it and I'm like, I don't taste any of that, but anyways, I'm drunk. Turtle Boy Gamer, heard of this channel about YouTube recommendations? Well, welcome aboard. From where are you located? This is about radio. Do you listen to the radio, Turtle Boy Gamer? We want to know. We want to know. Take care, Page Master. Will the internet ever be destroyed? Well, it could be in some way. If there would be a solar flare like in like the Carrington event in 1859, something like that, the internet would not work. I can tell you that. Rusty Rails. Did anyone else grow up listening to the Road Gang on WWL? It was an overnight radio for truckers. It was the best show. Now I wish I had recorded some of it back then. Man. You know what? It's so funny because I'm a tech guy. I've done so many things. Last night when I plugged in my Texan PL 990X with the audio cable that I have here into my PC, it came to mind that everything I was listening to, I could actually record using Audacity and make an MP3 file out of it. And I was like, why didn't I think about that earlier of everything radio and make audio files of stuff that I listen to, Dwayne, K4BBN. Nice to have you here. Chris Powell, what SDR am I using? So this is a SDR Play RSPDX, little black box that's just there next to me, connected to an outdoor MLA30 loop. And the software running that box is SDR Uno on the PC. Yes, David Letterman was an avid shortwave listener. Absolutely. There are quite a few personalities that it's that were shortwave listeners, actually. Yep, Pamela 5505 is Shannon Volmet from Ireland. I actually have a QSL pamphlet. It's not a QSL card. It's a pamphlet that is also a QSL. If you want to have a QSL card, Shannon does QSL, by the way. And what else do we have? Rusty Rails from Central Arkansas. SV O'Rourke says Gorbachev found out about the 1991 coup by tuning in the BBC on his portable shortwave. Tells you, even when a leader of a country is listening to shortwave and the BBC and foreign broadcasts for news, that's why the shortwave needs to continue. Because if things go bad, shortwave will be the way we can have some news. There's no borders on shortwave. Butterbean, nice to have you here. Going camping this weekend, taking my shortwave CB and scanner gear. Cool. I hope you're going to have some fun. Take time to enjoy it and have a lot of fun. This is really, really cool. Douglas, you have a great webcast tonight, sir. A lot of viewers, great questions, comments, and good answers your end. All the best. Well, you're always welcome, Doug. KC5ZUE in Florida. Always welcome to be here. It's a great place to be, I think, for any radio listener out there. William Helms can get WWL 700 from time to time. Cool. What else do we have? Terrence Frank, first-time listener. It sounds like, one of those radio shows. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, but I want to say that I enjoy what you're doing, and it's really a lot of fun. Welcome aboard, Terrence. Where are you located? please, anybody that is out there, and let's do this for now for a second. There are people watching that are not writing that can. If you are, just say hello. You don't have to expand on anything, explain anything. Just say, I'm watching and I'm located in whatever. And if you don't have access there, we want to have another one. So official, I'm going to post the email here. And I can do it here. I'm not used to having more than 8 keywords. Official Shortwave radio is at gmail.com. So official shortwave radio at gmail.com. You can send an email. So if you don't have access here because you're not a Gmail account, but you are watching, why not just send an email to that email address and say, hey, I'm listening and I'm located in whatever around the world. And we're going to check that out for a few minutes here on the feed to see if anybody is out there saying hello. Please take the time. It takes 2 seconds. It's fun to see who's listening or watching, where you're located around the world. This is just so much fun to have all of this. So, this is a show about radio, like I say all the time. We talk about shortwave, about medium wave, long wave, about good old days, good old times when things were different. And today, what we have, then what we can listen to. And it's really, really cool. And hope that you guys are going to continue watching the show. What else do we have? Dwayne, familiar with Herb Jegko? Unfortunately, not much along the lines of recordings from these days. So no, doesn't ring a bell here, but here in Canada. Hey, bonne nuit, TVDXer. À samedi. Fais attention à toi. À la prochaine. UT4646. Nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Patrick, I didn't try the one last Saturday, but a couple of weeks ago when they were doing it, they're doing it like every week. WNJC on 1360. It's crazy. They're doing it every week. And they have that the X test. And I mean, they've been coming in here to Montreal. Filippo Corti. Hello there. Nice to have you here. Dwayne is in Louisville, Kentucky. Cool. Yeah, WHAS is a station that comes in really well here in Montreal. Hiroxido. Nice to have you here from Chile, from Tocopilla City. So nice to have you on board, Camilo. And welcome aboard. ¿Cómo está mi amigo de Chile? And welcome to this show. And hope that you enjoy. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Hi, Brawler. Nice to have you here. Did not say much when I first started watching today because I have been busy with things going on here in Arkansas. No problem. It's just a question of knowing who's watching, because you don't have to. We don't always feel like interacting. Also, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's quite fine, actually. Moises, nice to have you here from New York. Not able to send a message because my Xbox is connected to the TV. No keyboard. Writing from a smartphone. Well, welcome aboard. That's a first. Somebody watching my live show from an Xbox. That's cool. Welcome aboard from New York. The Swobes. Nice to have you here. KE0VYE in St. Louis, Missouri. Nice. Yes, I have a friend of mine, either that's his name is Hernan, and Hernan Castillo. that comes from Chile, and we've known each other for a long, long time. And I miss having a lot of. I miss Shortwave from Chile. We need more stuff on Shortwave. We need to reactivate Chile on Shortwave. James Thompson, nice to have you here, James, from Brooklyn, New York, USA. Well, Marmang, nice to have you here from Florida. SV O'Rourke says John Lennon and Stanley Kubrick were two other celebrity extras Lennon had antenna installed on his limo. That's a rich life for you. It's like, well, how do you like your limo? With a shortwave receiver and a MLA30 on top. If you ever see a limo with an MLA30 on top, Jill is in town. Oh, God. Kelly Law from Scottsdale, Arizona. Cool. Butterbean is from North Georgia. By email, I got a few emails here. I've got Fernando that is watching from Mexico City, Mexico. He says that he watches the show quite regularly, but never participates in the chat. It is very entertaining. Thank you for all you do. Do you receive any stations from Mexico? Yes. Radio Educación 6185 is a regular here. So this is cool. Welcome aboard, Fernando from Mexico. And so Radio Educación is a regular here from Mexico. So it's really cool. What else do we have? We have John that is watching from the state of Alabama. And he says that he's enjoying the show tonight. It's a lot of fun to reminisce about shortwave. He does not have a shortwave radio right now. And he wants to thank me because he says, thank you very much. You have made a video a few months ago about Kiwi SDRs online. And I've been tuning around the world using these radios that are connected to the internet from different countries. It is giving me the urge to maybe buy a new radio. I don't know yet what to choose. I was looking at the review of your Texan PL990X. I find it very interesting. Maybe this could be my first new radio in more than 25 years. So why not go for it? Kiwi SDRs have one problem. They spoiled you at how good they are and what you receive. And what I am afraid is if you get a Texan PL990X, because you've been using on these online receivers, you might be a little, maybe you got spoiled a little by that. But I do think it's a good idea. And buy one radio. If it's not that, there's other options. And you can send me another email and say, what are the options that you would suggest? And this is the budget I have. And I'll answer back with any radio for sure. So welcome aboard from Alabama. We have Frederick is watching from France. Frédéric, which is a French name probably. Frédéric, bienvenue. Watching from France. I work night shift for a company. And when I have nothing to do as a security guard, I often watch your shows on Wednesday or Thursday here in France on my phone. I find them very entertaining. I don't have a shortwave radio, but I had a shortwave radio when I was younger. And watching your show brings me back in time into those moments in my life when it was all fun listening to the world. You were talking earlier about Radio Moscow, and I remember when they actually read my letter on the air in 1985. I still remember these fond memories, and I really, really enjoy shortwave even today. I do tune in to some Kiwi SDRs, so Kiwi SDRs are popular, but I would like to have my own radio at some point. Unfortunately, family and work are in the way of having some time for radio listening, so maybe at some point. But one thing that I want to say is that I've been watching your show regularly, and I want to thank you for all the time and devotion and making me feel like I'm back in the 80s from time to time listening to radio. Thank you very much. Francis Potch or Puck. Francis is in Lakeland, Florida. Welcome aboard. It's the first time he's listening to the show. I hope it's not going to be the last one. Patrick Wall, listening to the show. I do not have a Gmail account and email address, and I'm a member of the Facebook group. I have been for a while. I've tried commenting in the chat room during the show, and I'm signed in, and I can't see my comments. But for some reason, no one else can. Oh, we're going to check that out, man. So nice to have you here, Patrick, KB0CCN. Nice to have you on board. Elizabeth says, I've been quiet tonight, but I am watching. I've been since the beginning of the show. Thank you so much for all you do. It is amazing how you can talk for so long, how you can have so much stories, so many memories, and the people in the chat room, the people that follow you, are some of the most amazing people in the world. This is why you are popular, because you are simple and everybody loves being around people that do not pretend they are better than others. Wow. Thank you for all you do, Elizabeth. And I want to say one thing. Every time I say hello and half of the chat room says hello back, it warms my heart as I am alone here with my radio, and suddenly I feel like I am not alone. And I want to thank you for that, because it's something very special in my heart. Thank you, Jill. And she ends with merci beaucoup. So that's Elizabeth in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's it's kind of touching. It is touching, actually. It's not just kind of, it is touching. Merci, Elizabeth. It's nice to have. It's I never taught. I tell everybody I never taught when I started doing this that having live shows or doing stuff on YouTube would get so personal. Honestly, it's just great. RJDA Dakota used to listen to the voice of Free Chile and music on the station. What was that station? There was one station from Chile, a religious station. What was the name of that station? There was a religious station that was very powerful. They were making it up here a lot from Chile back then, but I forgot the name. Joe Cool, nice to have you here. What do you think of a long wire and wrapping one end around the radio several times rather than plugging it into the radio? Well, it does work. It will work by what we call coupling. It has advantages. On a radio that overloads easily, it increases the signal strength without increasing it enough to overload the radio most of the time. So that is that does work. I do that so much on the telescopic antennas. I put a radio out, and instead of clipping my sloper in the backyard, I roll, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 turns of wire of the antenna around the telescopic without having physical contact with the metal. And that actually works fine. It increases the signal levels a lot by coupling, but it doesn't overload the radios because there's no physical touching. So it's cool for that. What else do we have? Let's go down slowly. Florida. Kelly Law from Scottsdale, Arizona. Moses says been born in Lima and now living in NYC. Been a few times to Chile. Cool. What else do we have? Dwayne, the ham radio operator, lives across the river from Louisville. Is a former production director of 840 WHAS. Has a cool YouTube channel. Look for Jim Ferguson's radio story. Cool. And check that out. Anything about radio is always fun. What else do we have? Shady Pyro 90s hearing a bit of chatter on 38 lower sideband on 27385. Cool. Sidvic, Jill, you'll have to make the email part of the active show. It's getting very good attention. Yes, I know. I need to put more attention to it because a lot of people don't have a Gmail and a lot of people don't have the chat capability, but we'll say hi with email. You're right on that. I should do that every week. Make sure that people sign in and log in and say hello. It's fun to see people from all around the world, actually. Hear from people from all around the world, honestly. So, Idroxido says, I like the Xing. I have very cheap multi-band radio, shortwave AM, FM. Sometimes in the night I hear Cuban, Chinese, and American stations with good reception. Sometimes some Brazilian. Cool. The Swab says, I just found some old cassette recordings of shortwave broadcasts I recorded in the 90s. Surprised at the quality of sound. Would anybody interested in hearing old tape? Yeah, you should actually transfer these in MP3 and put them online somehow. Shortwave Listening Post, swing.com, has a very nice archive and they accept recordings. Ron, sorry. COVID? No, it's not. It's no beer. Ron Hicks, so true. I've been spoiled by web SDRs, so keep the challenge by primarily doing my listening on the new Texan. It is difficult to move on because some of them are so good that it's kind of hard to move on to a radio, Rusty Rail says, just out of Little Rock. Good to see more Arkansas folks in here tonight. Cool. That's where you see you're not alone. Terrence started shortwave listening in 1972 while serving now a ham and talked to Montreal regularly. QTH is Illinois. Shortwave radios are Greenwich Satellite 750 and an ICOM R8600. Cool. Ixo heard the Cuban number station. Cool. Everybody saying hello to Elizabeth, of course. Really nice to have you. Gordon Lyle, how many in the chat tonight are in Illinois? Everybody's saying hello to Elizabeth. Jeff, KD5QDO. Nice to have you here. All of my wire antennas were pulled down before the hurricanes came through, so I'm using online receivers until we get them reinstalled. Cool. At least you're safe, and that's the important thing. Randall Klontz in Northeast Illinois. Of course. What else do we have? JFKD5 QDO says you have a great channel with an awesome group of people on the live chats. Yeah, in the Facebook group also. It's really nice. There are some. So you know what, guys? I'm gonna take a break 2 minutes because I need to pee. I've been drinking beer, and I need to pee. I will be back in a couple of seconds. While I'm going to pee, anybody that hasn't said hi, say hi. Tell us where you are in the chat room, or official shortwave radio at gmail.com. I'll be checking that out. Official shortwave radio at gmail.com. I will be checking that out when I come back because it's fun to see everybody and where you are around the world. If you have a little story, anything that you want to say, write it down it'd be fun to hear why, how you listen to Shortwave, how did it happen, and those little stories are always fun to read and to talk and to share with everybody else. We all have a kind of a common ground. I'm gonna go pee. I'm back in 2 minutes, guys. And I'm back. And of course, we have the star of the show right here, right here, Mr. Paul the Cat. Mr. Paul the Cat, the star of the show, saying hello to everybody. So we have Brett Wayne. Nice to have you here. KC2NXP. We have, let me just go down. Canadian Radio TV guy. What was the Hawaiian shortwave station you said was going back on the air? So yes, it's apparently been heard already by a few DXers. Hawaii station is let me just WH allow. So it's from it's World Harvest Radio, so it's linked to WHRI technically. It's T8WH. So it's T8WH in Palau, and it is reactivated from Hawaii. So we're gonna have to watch for frequencies and times, but it's back on, and there already are some reports of some people that have received it. Apparently, Canadian Radio TV guy. Christian Voice. Thank you, Moises. Christian Voice from Chile, using the transmitters from Chilean National Radio. They were parked after the end of Pinochet. They were coming in here so strong. I remember that was Christian Voice was one of the stations from Chile. It was really. But you know that Chile had a international broadcaster way back in the 70s and I think early 80s. I need to check that out and try to dig that out of the dust. James Johnson, I miss the radio store and all the toys that we go with them. They were like the TV repair shops, but hey, maybe there will be come back rebirth. Yeah, it's like Radio Shack. I think all of us do miss Radio Shack in some way, because that was the place you'd go for radio, but also for all sorts of all sorts of electronics gadgets and stuff. C1SC0M4N. Cisco man, basically. Have you heard Harp yet? No, Harp is off the air since the top guy that was operating that with the Alaska University of Anchorage. So Chris Fallon was the head of the project of Harp for a while. There has not been reactivation of that at all. It would be sad to see that site destroyed, because I've heard a bit of rumors of Harp could be kind of destroyed because it's a big part of the land and it is something that right now doesn't have any use technically, but Harp hasn't been operated for quite a while now. Jasmine, shortwave listening post archive. Go to swling.com and click at, you'll see at the top or one of the options, you'll see archive. So many shortwave recordings there. It's crazy. Gordon Lyle, Jill, is Radio World in Canada a very big store? Have you been there, seen a few videos from them? I have been to Radio World in Toronto once when I was in Toronto in 2008 and 2008. It is quite big. It is probably what is the biggest store left anyways in Canada about radio. And they have a lot of stuff. There. It's really nice to go there. If you are in Toronto, go and check them out. Absolutely. Bobby Burgess says hello to the emailers and in chat. Let's see if we got email here. So what do we have? Oh, yeah, we got a few emails here. We got quite a few emails here. I'm going to check it out. No, Harp is not active now. Of the Dawn from Albertville, Alabama. Jack Amelar, nice to have you here. And Y8D, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Cool. 3830 Radio Man, nice to have you here. So thanks for the direct link, shortwavearchive.com. Thank you very much, Keegan. And man says, now that he's gone, let's play a trick. Who's got the whoopee cushion? Oh, God. Kevin Wood, nice to have you here from Nova Scotia. Brian Venheimer, nice to have you on board. Terrence says, good show. Short listening has been and always will be a great hobby. Absolutely. I'll check it out. What else do we have? Everybody say hello to Mr. Paul. SB O'Rourke, shortwave music trivia. What Beatles song features a shortwave radio in its fade out? Wow. I don't know. I didn't even know that there was a shortwave radio in its fade out. I have a bit of trivia. What band that was quite popular in the late 70s, early 80s features Canadian Forces, Halifax, Morse code at the beginning of one of its songs? Anybody know that? One of the bands that I kind of like. And they have a shortwave audio clip before the song starts. So bonus points. Who's the band that features CFH or Canadian Forces Halifax Morse Code Station when the song starts? And what is the name of the song? Anybody know? I didn't know that until I started shortwave, because I knew the song before I listened to shortwave. And when I listened to shortwave, that's where I understood, oh man, these are shortwave songs, shortwave sounds. John Jones, nice to have you here. Love the show, very informative. Was listening to shortwave yesterday. Picked up interesting signals on 8750, the Southampton Maritime. Yeah, 8750 around the whole 8 megahertz spectrum is utility, most of it. It has a lot of aeronautical, maritime signals of all sorts. It's one of those bands that's interesting to listen to. Butterbean first started into CB and shortwave in '68. Now a ham and still have 3 or 4 shortwaves working with a GFRV antenna, fixing to put up 150 feet long wire. Wow. Joe Cool. When wrapping the wire around the radio, is there a magic number of turns? Thanks for your expertise. Not really. The more you will do turns, the more coupling will happen. So basically what happens is if you do 3 turns, you have a certain number, a certain coupling. If you do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you actually have more and more coupling of that signal. So the idea behind it, and especially if you have a radio that overloads easily, the idea behind it is to make enough turns to give it enough signals when you want to listen to stuff. And if you are if your radio overloads, you just stop at a certain level to not overload it. It's simple. There's no real, it's not, the more turns you'll do, the more it's going to couple, the more your signal is going to be strong. That's it. So do the number of turns that you're capable. I use alligator clips like these. So what happens is that often what I'll do, because the sloper in my backyard has I put a tap, a little pin that comes out. That little pin is where I can tap an alligator clip. So what I do is I put an alligator clip, and then if you take the telescopic, I'll just wrap it around and wrap as much as I can. Because often with alligator clips, often I have 2 or 3 of them like all clipped together, which is kind of funny. I will put as many around as I can and just stop. But I resist the temptation most of the time to clip directly with the alligator clip for 2 things when you have a long wire. One is to make sure that I'm not going to clip and maybe the antenna has a static discharge in it or something that's going to zap the radio. But mostly because most portables that I have, or most portables, overload easily in certain situations. So instead of clipping directly, I'll just do a number of turns. Most of the time what I'll do is like maybe 7, 8, 9 turns and leave it like that, and it's enough anyways to get some pretty good DX. Sorry guys. Whoa. Okay. That fell down. Larry Cordy, nice to have you here from New York. Jeff Barry, nice to have you on board from Ontario. Ingleside, Ontario. Like Terrence said, number of turns is experimental, pretty much. Who can pick up the buzzer from the US? Well, I usually do. I'm going to try it now, just out of curiosity, and this is the wrong keyboard. When you have too many keyboards, You don't know what keyboard to press? Let's try it here. Let's see if I can hear it right now. And here it goes. Okay, let's put some volume here. And upper sideband. So I'm not hearing it right now, but you guys can see all the lines here and here, the lines of CODAR, which are ocean wave radars. Yeah, Daniel, I understand what you're saying. Somebody a long time ago purchased a shortwave radio and was in southwest, somewhere in the southwest of the U.S. And he came up to me and he said, "You know what? I admire your enthusiasm, and it's fun to see what you get." But he came back to me and he says, "What I can't stand is all I get here is religious shortwave stations. They're all dominating the bands, and I'm tired of it. And that's why I'm not continuing into this hobby." And you hear that and you're like, there are a few things you have to do. You have to, if that is a problem, you got to ignore it more. That's what I do. I ignore it. I understand. I do see there's a lot of it. There's a lot of religious broadcasting out there. What I do is I just, ignore it and move on to the next signal. For some people, it's annoying. U.S. broadcasters have that side of it a lot, and it's money coming in. So that's the way it is. Remember that the radio you have has a tuning knob. You can just move on to the next signal when something is not interesting. What else do we have? What else do we have? What else do we have? William Moser, nice to have you here. Dr. Sisop, nice to have you on board. Man. Actually, it's very simple. This page is the official page of HARP. But if you look on the page, there's no activity. There's no activity. Richard, if you go to research campaigns, there's nothing that is posted much. If you look at 2021 TBD winter campaign, there's really nothing much right now. This is really the University of Alaska Fairbanks, but nothing is happening with HARP right now. If we check here, yeah. Yep. It's there. It's definitely there. And here is goals and goals and objectives for Arctic research, but 2019, 2020. But right now, there's nothing happening. Right now, there's really nothing happening on HARP. So there's no signals coming out of there. It's not fake. It's the real education, University of Alaska education page. But there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening there right now. Yeah, like Jasmine says, if HARP was doing anything, we know. I would actually be posting about it. We even had Chris Fallen, the official director of the project, in the chat room last time there was some live stuff coming from there. So just to tell you, we are probably the most in the know people of things happening with HARP. I can tell you that. Canadian Radio TV guy, WBCQ, wasting their huge 500 kilowatt transmitter on world's last chance. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I totally share your point of view on this. There could be so much other things to do with a transmitter like that, for sure. For sure. You know. Daniel Lamkin says shortwave is how he got eventually his ham license. Like probably a lot of people. There are two things that brought people to get their ham license: shortwave listening, CB radio. I think those were the two big things that made people just go for the ham license. Already, man. Rush YYZ, Rush 21 and 2, Glass Tiger, Rush, nope. B-52s, Kevin Wood has it. Planet Claire. Yes, William Helms, Planet Claire. B-52s, Planet Claire. You guys go and check that song. B-52s, Planet Claire. At the beginning, what you have is actual shortwave sounds of the 80s. And the Morse code in it is CFH, Canadian Forces Halifax. And it's an actual bit of a shortwave radio that they actually recorded just at the beginning of Planet Claire song. Glass Tiger song had they had a song called Tin Red Line. They had a song called The Tin Red Line. Absolutely. Hey, John Jones. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And we are here twice a week for those that are brand new to the show. And we are here on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 0 hours UTC. And on Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UTC. And we talk about radio. And we got a hell of a nice Halloween show that will be coming up in a few weeks from now. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Prasad, please take care. 73. See you next Wednesday. Always nice to have India in the house. Thank you, Prasad, for being here. Dr. Sisop, I noticed the MLA30 isn't directional. If I move it sometimes, gets more noise, but signal same on WWV. It is directional on medium wave and long wave. The MLA30 is very, very directional on signals that are very close to you. But on shortwave, and it isn't because of the MLA30, shortwave signals, the way that they behave from very long distances and the way they get kind of distorted by the propagation in the ionosphere, the directional pattern on shortwave it's not much there. It's not zero, but it's very weak. Paula Abdul on 5850. Sidvic, if you are worried about static discharge, maybe you should connect a balun or unon. Well, actually, there is one to ground on it, so I shouldn't be. It's more a question of overloading, honestly, than anything else. Matt got Kodar, but no buzzer. Chris Powell, take care from Minneapolis, Minnesota. AE0IY. What's your 20? Montreal, Quebec, Canada. What else do we have? What else do we have? Shitty Powers got some Spanish Piskies or fishermen on 6900. Look at that. We've got Mika Dalmage with a Esperanza. Radio Esperanza. QSL or QSL letter from 1997. Cool. This is what it looks like. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What else do we have here? Let me just check the email. We have Bob Faze from Massachusetts saying hello. He says that it's the second time he's been watching the show. I really like your show. Remember listening to Shortwave when I was younger. A few questions I would have for you is, how would I get back into the hobby? Can I buy a radio at a local store? And if so, what store would I go to? And second is, are there any publications that I could purchase to have information about radio and schedules for shortwave stations? Today, the chances are you will mostly buy your radios on the internet. On Amazon, they have a selection of radios, or on eBay, or different pages like that. Unfortunately, it's kind of sad because it's difficult. It's very difficult actually to find any shortwave radios locally now. Even here in Montreal. I mean, Montreal is a big city. I think, you know what? It would almost be fun for me to secretly make put my phone in a way that nobody knows really, and secretly make videos of me going into electronic stores and saying, do you have shortwave radios here? And see the reactions, and that could be a fun thing to do on the channel, actually. Unfortunately, that's sad because that means it's difficult to find shortwave radios in most places. So you'll have to buy online pretty much. As for shortwave schedules, you know what? There's one positive side of the internet, and it's the amount of information that we do have on the internet about schedules that are so much more up to date than whatever we had when we had books. So that's the state of how it is right now. We have Gordon Lyle sending a little picture just to show us what it looks like to listen to the show in his little shack here. So I recognize that little radio at the top here, that boombox with shortwave. I recognize a few things here. So this is Gordon Lyle's little radio corner. Kind of cool and kind of neat. Nice little spot. It's very clean. Doesn't look like my office that is totally like there was an earthquake yesterday. Thanks for sharing. Anybody wants to send a picture of their shack, by the way, please do so. Official Shortwave Radio at gmail.com. Do so. We're going to try to post them before I leave a little later. We have Ahmed. Ahmed is in Algeria. So his post is in French. So Ahmed says that a friend of his that watches the show told him you have to watch this guy's show from Canada about radio. He says he has limited understanding of English, but he gets most of what I actually say. And he says that he loves the way that I do the show, and he loves the way that he loves the fact that a lot of people are listening to shortwave today. He says what he misses a lot is when there were a lot of African broadcasters that were easy to pick up. He still has a receiver, which is a Panasonic receiver from the 80s. So he doesn't give an exact model. He says it's an analog Panasonic that he had from the 80s. It still works fine. He listens to the Voice of America French service to Africa regularly. He also likes to listen to the BBC French service, and that he enjoys listening to what's happening around the world. He says, as a Algerian that lives in a country where things are often complicated, I would like to say one thing about shortwave radio that you have mentioned on your show regularly. Is the fact that whatever happens politically in your country, whatever happens in the era where you live, if the internet stops working, and he says in brackets that internet is a big problem there where he lives. He says, I can turn on my radio and know what's happening, not just around the world, but in my own country, from reliable sources of news that are external to whatever government is going to try to tell me here in my own country. And he ends by saying, thank you so much for taking the time to speak a few French words when you know that there are people out there that are from French-speaking areas. Merci beaucoup, Ahmed. C'est un plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. Je trouve ça extrêmement intéressant de savoir que tu aimes les ondes courtes, mais que tu aimes aussi utiliser les ondes courtes pour avoir de l'information sur ton propre pays. C'est extrêmement agréable et c'est exactement ce que les ondes courtes doivent être. Merci, Ahmed. Thank you so much, Ahmed. We have another email. Lots of people tonight. We have another email from James A. Bianco. So he lives in northern part of Oregon, and he says that he's been watching my show regularly. He does not have a Gmail, so does not participate in the chat room, but he watches every single video that I post, he says. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to not only inform us of what is interesting on shortwave, inform us on what are the best radios out there, but I want to especially thank you for keeping shortwave alive. You are truly an ambassador of shortwave radio, of radio in general. Without you, maybe a lot of people would not know that this great hobby of ours is still alive. Thank you so much for what you do. Wow. Thank you so much. Really nice. I'm going to cry. No, I'm not going to cry, but oh man, it's so cool to have everybody just, sending this. Mike Thornton is sending his check. So Mike WC0L sending in a little picture here. So no electrons were harmed during the creation of this email, but many were inconvenienced. I like that. I like that. So this is a little station. Kind of nice. Look at that. Simple, great, and effective. That's what we want. So thank you so much for sharing. It's so much fun to have a lot of people. I never thought when I started this that there would be so many people watching or interacting, and I find it so cool. And I'm blessed to be here, actually, honestly. So RJD Dakota is in Wentzville, Missouri. Cool. Yeah, that's the thing, Daniel. More variety. That's what we miss. Especially what we when we seen what shortwave was in the 80s or 70s. It's crazy. Terrence, what kind of mic are you using? Your audio sounds great, like you're in the room with me. So this is a Maono, A-U something. Maono, M-A-O-N-O. And I actually I purchased this on Amazon. I was looking for a better microphone that would have really amazing audio. And this came up. It has the microphone, the arm, the wind socket or the windsock or whatever. It's a USB microphone. It is amazingly good, and I'm extremely happy of this microphone. It cost me something like 80-ish Canadian dollars, and it's really, really impressive for such a low-priced microphone, honestly. Cito says the day when the internet shut down, shortwave will rise up again like the old days. Yeah, possibly. Cisco, man, second time in my life I was wrong. Oh, man. RGD Dakota. We were talking here in Montreal. There's a station, Virgin 96, that is really in the dumpster of the ratings. And when I was talking to Sheldon at the International Radio Report show, how what I find funny is that it plays the same music as The Beat, which is one of the top stations right now. So I told him, why is it that a station that plays the same darn music is in the dumpster when the other one that plays the same exact thing is in the top? And I said, if you would blindfold people, and make them listen, they would never know the difference. It's so weird why one is on top and the other isn't. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre. Dr. Sisop, now that the 20 AM band is closed, US is going to allow DAB Plus in 2023-24. HD radio will end as many markets will not have it still. Is it official that the 220 ham band is gone? Matt says, nothing is doomed. Anyone who lived through the vinyl is dead knows that unique technologies can be replaced if they retain an advantage that their replacements can't match. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm curious. I don't think 220. I don't think 220 is totally closed, honestly. I really don't think part of it was reassigned, but I don't think it's all closed, right? Hey, Jasmine. Yep, Saturday, October 31st is the Halloween show. Of course, Priam.org is where I look where I go to know when the next number station is going to be is going to be on. Well, the crackling sometimes is not my microphone. It's the way, because I'm using Google Chrome as a browser. So that is that is mostly where crackling comes from. The microphone itself is perfect. Rusty Rails, the realistic DX302, great radio. Yeah, nice. I had one for a long time. RJD Dakota. I didn't know that about the Chilean radio station. I ever like the music they aired between broadcasts. Carlos Aguila, nice to have you here. Huge question, Joe. Notice that sometimes you extend the whip of on your reviews, and sometimes you don't, regardless of an external antenna. What makes sense to extend the whip on FM or AM? Okay, first of all, AM radio, the whip is not required because AM radio has a ferrite. So if you're listening to the AM band, there's no need to extend the telescopic. The FM band, one of the problems with the FM band for me is that here we have a lot of very powerful FM stations. So what happens is that I will not extend the antenna on FM because it's going to overload the radio and it's going to become a useless radio for listening to what I want to. As for the shortwave, if I don't extend the antenna, either I have an external antenna, or sometimes I will, like I talked earlier, I will wrap a few turns of wire on the telescopic, and that couples the signal. When that happens, you don't have to really extend the antenna much. You can leave the antenna short, couple 7 or 8 turns on just the little short antenna that you have, and it's just going to work and it's going to be great. So that's pretty much what I do, and that's why sometimes you might see it's extended or not, depending of me using a coupling method with wire turned around, or depending on what I'm listening to. Yeah, HF Underground for Pirates is great. Absolutely. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yep. The Randall Clance 860 Toronto does broadcast in French, and I hear it quite regularly here, the CBC station from Toronto. I hear it really regularly here. What else do we have? Take care, Nick. K9XN. Always nice to have you here. Carlos, you're so awesome. Precisely what my observations of your reviews deducted. Didn't know about the AM ferrite. Bless your heart. Yeah, except for the Texan PL990X that I purchased, that now that one has actually the AM disconnected external antennas. For the most part, on AM, you don't need the telescopic. It's useless. And like I say, I just couple through. When you couple, you don't need to extend the antenna. You just couple through whatever small part you want to couple through, and that's it. It doesn't change anything, So, what else do we have? Let me check the email here. Anything new on the email? Patrick Wall. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the U.S., AMs still have that part. Yeah, because here in Canada, I don't know about the 220 megahertz band. I don't know exactly. Like Patrick Wall says here. So here in Canada, we have the full 220 to 225 megahertz. We still have the full band. I know that in the US, they did chunk a part of it and removed it from the ham capabilities. But I've never heard that 220 was going totally away on the ham bands at all. So I would think that if they do DAB stuff, it'll be on the part that was removed, not on the whole 220 band. Because a lot of people have been sending me, telling me now, it's like, no, we still have tons of repeaters on 220 here. So maybe it's just that part of 220 that's going to be removed, not the whole 220 megahertz band. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of activity there. There's very little here, even in Montreal. There's one repeater that I can tune, like I think it's 224740. But there's not a lot of activity, unfortunately. There's never been a lot of activity on 220, unfortunately. Lone Wolf, Ottawa, VA3BNS. Nice to have you here from Ottawa. Keegan just sent a photo of his dad's W9JEF ham shack. Let's check it out. Oh, here it is. Oh, man. That is a shack. Wow. Look at that. That is a ham radio / radio TV repair guy / electronics buff / crazy. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Richard Baron. Nice to have you here, Richard. KF2V, Toledo, Ohio. Which is best for CW? SH Data D808 or PL990X? What time Eastern Standard does your great program start on Wednesday and Saturday? Eastern time, Richard, it's 8 p.m. on Wednesday, 4 p.m. on Saturday. That will change to... So next month when we change our clocks, that will change to 7 p.m. Wednesday and 3 p.m. Saturday. But for now, it's 8 p.m. Wednesday Eastern, 4 p.m. Saturday Eastern time. I would say because of its great precision and tuning, the Texan PL990X, they share the same 500 hertz filter, but the XH Data does it as well and very well, and it's half the price. So it depends on how much money you want to spend pretty much at the end. James Johnson, radio porn. It looks like that. It looks like a TV radio repair guy, shack. Yogi says, my alternative method for coupling random wire with shortwave radio, I have aerial on crock clip and clip it to the metal biscuit mooncake lid. Huh. Gordon says, Sunday, November 1st, on Romanian Radio Day, we will have be celebrating Listeners' Day here in Romania. That would be interesting to check out. No, the PL990X synchronous detection isn't very good. I got bashed because I said it wasn't very good. Somebody said, well, it's better than the 880. It's still crappy. It's crappy. It's crappy. I got to say it's crappy. What is there more to say than it's crappy? Why are you trying to tell me anything else? I don't care if it's better than the 880. It's just crappy. Let's just stay at this. That's all. You know, I mean, I love my 990X. Can we just say that synchronous detection is crappy. That's all. Thank you. I don't care if it's better than the 880. Man, the 880's sync detection is horrible if the 990X is crappy. That's all. I mean, if a feature is better but works somewhat nice, okay. But the 990X, if I am very honest, it's crappy sync. Let's make a song out of it. Crappy sync, crappy sync, crappy sync is sync is sync. It's sunk. It's not a crappy sync. It's a crappy that's sunk. Terrence, while 220 megahertz is a ham band, it is shared with. Yeah, I know that it's shared. It's like a secondary purpose thing. So kind of interesting. Toilet paper roll with a diode, a copper wire, and an earphone. Oh God. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. 3 hours and some 10 minutes ish. I think it was nice. The next show is on Saturday. We'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UTC. If you want to join in. Hope you did have fun. Thanks everybody for being great fans, for being here, for having fun, for sharing with everybody. And stay safe. And see you next show. Right here on the official SWL channel. Take care, my friends. Love you all. And see you soon. Love you. Okay.